The TiLt interview.
Right. So, obviously, this little back and forth will be probably edited out so it doesn't look quite as unprofessional.
Right.
How do you want to start? Do you want me to just sort of run through the walk, and then we'll go from there and just
Sure. However you want to do it, Richard. Yeah. Just let it fly, bro.
All right. Well, I'm going to try and do this with as quickly as possible. So, start again. So, joining me this evening all the way from Las Vegas, an exceptional guitarist with an impressive career under his belt. The 90s saw him play with the Rocks Gang and the 2000s with LA Guns. He's the author of the book Snake Eyes, Confessions of a Replacement Rock Star, and in 2010 he released his solo album Symphonic Slam, which beautifully encapsulates classical music on electric guitar. His last band, Electric Radio Kings, broke the top 30 on the Billboard mainstream rock charts with a cover of Amy Winehouse's Back to Black. Here he is tonight to discuss his new band, Crashing Wayward, and their debut single, Breathe, which was released on February 12th. It's an amazing single, and I'm very honored to introduce to you, I'll do that line again. It's an amazing single, and I'm very honored to introduce to you, Stacey David Blades.
Greetings.
Greetings.
How's things in the UK?
It's been a strange day, to say the least.
Strange year.
Absolutely strange year. Yes.
Yeah.
But I think the run up to today has been somewhat shaky, to say.
Yeah. Rich, what part of UK are you in?
I'm in Manchester. That's where indie rocks comes from.
Okay, so you're northern UK then.
Yeah, I'm north. I'm living northwest, but obviously the voice is a complete down southeast voice. So originally London born, now living up north.
Oh, very nice. Yes, you have very London accent. So
it's never quite left. It's not quite Cockney. It's not quite Cockney. It's not like all right there, mate, apples and pears and all that. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's more of the.
That's very slang. I would.
Yeah, it's more of the
quaint, eloquent.
I think that's comes from from the.
I've been to UK. Right. I've been blessed to have been over to UK like 11 times. And love it over there. So great people, love touring over there. It's funny. It's like I've been to London 11 times and I've yet to see Big Ben, Parliament, Thames, any of, the city's main attractions.
Yeah.
I'm just always in and out.
No, that actually makes perfect sense. I actually worked in London for about 3 years and I never went anywhere near those places. So,
it's such a huge city. It's one of my favorite cities in the world. It's an amazing place.
Well, we've got a big mall here in the northwest in Manchester called the Trafford Centre. I've been living up here since 2001. I've never been.
Oh, wow.
So there you go. I don't get out.
Yeah. Our other guitar player, David Harris, is actually originally born in Manchester.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. David Harris, that's his name?
Yes. Yeah.
Just for some reason you said David Harris, guitarist, and a light went off in my head like I'd heard that name before. Is he just he's just played for your? No,
he's got his own band called Lovesick Radio, which has done quite well over the years. He's done a lot of different stuff, played with a lot of different artists, and he's toured the world as well. So cool. Pretty established cat, yeah. But he's actually originally born in England. Yeah.
Fantastic, awesome. Right, so funnily enough, the first question I was going to ask you this evening was, first of all, Stacey, how are you getting on at the moment?
Things are great. We just finished 3 days of rehearsal with the guys, and that was the first time we've been together since November, since we shot the video for Breathe.
Yeah. And
really the first time we rehearsed since last summer. So it was kind of surreal rehearsing. We've been writing a lot more lately, and we wanted to get together and work on these new songs because we're going to go back in with our producer, Mike Gillies, next month to start a whole new batch of new songs about probably record 3 or 4 new songs. We've already got 3 recorded. So excited to announce that the next single we are filming a video for in Los Angeles, April 2nd and 3rd.
Excellent.
And we're hopeful that about a month later, end of April, beginning of May, that'll be released. So new single coming in roughly 6 weeks or so, and that's a song called Disco Kills. It's
Disco
really good.
Kills. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well, I can obviously see that's going to be played on TiLt, hopefully. Thank
Yes.
goodness. So, obviously, we're here to discuss the debut single "Breathe" with Crashing Wayward. Now, obviously, tell us this story. What actually brought the band together?
Yeah, very great question. Very interesting kind of backstory on that. As you had mentioned, Electric Radio Kings. I got to rewind to like 2019.
Yeah.
That band had been together almost 3 years, and we started getting quite a bit of traction. We had been featured twice on Alice Cooper's radio show, Nights with Alice Cooper. So he first featured the band in 2018. We had a single and video called Sympathy for Me. So we actually did a 4-week radio campaign here in the U.S. With that. We did pretty good with that. And but when Alice played it, it kind of really broke the doors open for that. And then
just to get on something as big as Alice Cooper's radio.
Yeah. And I got to know Alice fairly well from my time in LA Guns, because we did play with him.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but we did a handful of shows with him, and wonderful guy, man. Just an awesome guy. And I know all the guys in his band very well. So,
cool.
And it's funny because, you know, the first time he featured us on the radio, he talked about the band and he went through everybody's name, and my name was last, and he said my name and he was like, huh, because I think I know Stacey. So that was kind of funny.
That's just
I was like, you do?
Yeah. I mean, if you're sitting there listening to a radio and suddenly Alice Cooper says, yeah, I know that guy, you're like, yeah.
That was pretty cool. So we started gaining momentum, and then we started recording a full-length album that we put out, and I guess was around March of 2019, we decided that the remake of Amy Winehouse's Back to Black, that was going to be the single, a really cool version of that song, and we filmed a video for it. So we really started getting, with the radio campaign, a lot of national radio play on Active Rock Radio.
Yeah.
I think we got like almost 1,200 spins in a matter of like 8 weeks.
That's good.
So with that, you know, we landed in the top 100 on Billboard Mainstream at 87, and we just kept climbing because we got another station and more stations nationally would start, and then we got added in rotation. So we started kind of climbing the ladder there, and then next thing we were like, you know, our guy got back to us, Gary at Landshark, and said, holy crap, you guys broke top 30.
Nice.
And we held number 28 for like 2.5 weeks. So that was exciting.
Yeah.
So then some labels started sniffing around, and we ended up signing a deal with a company called MI5, which is actually run by the guy from Modern English, which is I'll Stop the World and Not With You.
Right.
And that was his label, and he had a partnership with Universal Music Group. So they kind of sweet talked me, which I fell for. The deal ended up being absolutely nothing, but there was a lot of factors that went into why that was too. And then we had a guy named Larry Mazur, really big manager. He used to manage Kiss. He managed Cinderella, Lamb of God. He's Buck Cherry's current manager. He was super interested in the band. He was ready to kind of take the band on. So we had we were starting to play a handful of shows, and we had just played a big show in New Orleans and Houston. And this singer, Paul, there was a lot of dysfunction in that band, Rich, and he saw this thing taken off, and, he knew in his heart he didn't want it.
Yeah. I mean,
it scared him.
It's one of those things, isn't it? Fame doesn't necessarily fit for everybody.
Yeah. And I knew it in the back of my hand too, Rich, and I saw this, it was like a pressure cook. And I'm like, as things were starting to really happen for the band, I just knew it's any moment. And sure enough, that night in Houston, we played in front of like 1,000 people. And basically we got back to the hotel, and he emailed everybody and was like, F you guys, I quit. So he basically just, flushed the thing down the toilet.
So
record stiffed.
It wasn't quite amicable then?
No, not quite.
Have you spoken to him since?
No, not since. A few times, not so conversation,
Sorry, I lost the feed there. Could you say it again? Sorry.
Oh, yeah. A few conversations, nothing really, cordial.
Right.
So in a way I was relieved, because it was that being in that band was so stressful. It was like everything was all on me to handle everything. Paul did do a lot for the band. But so, flying back home from Houston back to Vegas on that Sunday, I'm just like, what just happened? So everything, we lost the management deal, never happened. The record completely stiffed, was just done. And I was like, now what? So I reformed the band completely from scratch. And we actually played 2 shows with this new lineup, minus Sean, our drummer, now, in 2020, January and February in Las Vegas and Los Angeles, and then the pandemic hit.
Yeah. So just another knock-on effect, isn't it?
So
it never rained, but it poured.
So we were like, okay, look, everybody's in the same boat. So we decided, let's rebuild the band. And so we really started getting this kind of new vision and new sound and everything. And then, Peter, our awesome frontman, he just, he said to me, he's like, Stace, it's time to let go of the life raft. It's like, it's not Electric Radio Kings. You're the only guy left from that band. It's pointless to keep. Right. And I was clutching on to like all that hard work and stuff that we'd achieved. And I was like, he was absolutely right. I was like, I'm like, you're right, Pete. It's time to let go of the ropes. So
it is, but it's not easy, is it? Because you've put your heart and soul into something, and you've thought it's going to go the distance, and when it doesn't, it's that punch of reality. You don't want to admit it, and you don't want to sort of let it go. Yeah. It's understandable,
No, exactly.
I mean, you say 3 years.
So no, we've actually. Yeah, it was that. Yeah, I mean, it was like. He was absolutely right. So I mean, I certainly did. I was like, okay, you're right. So not only that too, Rich, it's like the former singer and I had an LLC that I needed to dissolve. Just, it was pointless to keep it, So that was another thing. It was like, let's change the name of the band. So we just started talking about band names, and Crashing Wayward came to me one day, and that was it. It was like, that was like the name of the band, And it had kind of meaning too. It was like this recklessness, abandonment, moving forward.
It's funny.
After everything that happened.
It's funny you should say that. Actually, this afternoon while going through it, while thinking of the questions to ask you, I actually went on and I looked for the dictionary definition of wayward, and I didn't write it down because I'm a fool, but I thought to myself, wayward being what it means, and obviously crashing wayward, it means to obviously to venture forward and it seemed based on what I read about you and the fact that I was aware that the previous band had split up.
Yeah,
it made the name of the band made sense, and I thought it was a great name.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was kind of like a gift. It just literally came to me, and I said, Pete, what do you think of Crashing Wayward? He was like, that's the name of the band. Just go ahead and tell everybody.
Brilliant.
Okay, here we go. Move forward. So we made the announcement about the name change, and it went over really, really well. So I was like, oh, wow, okay, that's a great sign. So looking back on 2020, we just spent literally like it was like April, May, June, July, August, September, just writing and doing pre-production again with Mike Gillies. And for those of you who don't know who Mike Gillies is, he worked with Metallica for, since he was their studio engineer since the Load record. So Mike lives here in town in Vegas, and another Canadian, a lot of Canadians here in Vegas, including myself.
Joe, funny enough, I actually wasn't aware. Oh, yes, I was. Sorry, I was aware you were Canadian. I got it mixed up with. Do you know what? I'm going to edit this part out. Forget I just said that. Carry on.
Keep it in.
To be honest, it's funny you should say, because in recent weeks, when before I started talking about starting up my new radio show, which is TiLt, quite a lot of the independent artists that I'm hearing are actually from Canada, and they're bringing some absolutely phenomenal tracks out. And
yeah,
it's great. It's if anything, out of the abysmal year that everyone has basically declared 2020 as, music has somewhat thrived.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which technically did lead me into my next question, which was, obviously, with 2020 not being the easiest year for musical artists, I'm not keeping that bit in. 2020 has obviously not been the easiest year for most artists, but obviously you've managed to not only produce a single, but the music video. Now, were any of the restrictions, were the restrictions in place? How badly did that hold you back?
Well, we weren't able to obviously tour nationally, or even play in town or close by. We had stuff booked. That and stuff that we were booking that we all had to just kind of scrub along with everybody else. So as hard as that was like, well, everybody's going through it, and some worse than others that had whole tours or playing festivals and stuff like that. So it was really rough for musicians. So I think for me, I can't speak for everybody else. Once it came to grips with that, it's like, okay, look, can't go out and play. Which really sucks, but we can take this time to make, the band just prep everything like amazingly. And that's what we did. We spent months doing pre-production with Mike, and Mike actually produced Electric Radio King's album Per. So we already had a kind of relationship with Mike, and then all the other guys met him, and we just, it was like game on, let's start creating. So we really spent a lot of time in the pre-production and recording process. So, and that's why Breathe came out so great as it is, because the band just, everybody brought their A game, and Mike just went to town with the production. And
for a debut single, I don't want to say the exact words I said when I first heard that, but it was definitely the F-bomb I dropped, and I thought that was phenomenal. It rocked. It was great. And it's the kind of track you'd expect from a band that's hit the peak on their third album. And they, when you get like a thing, you say, well, this is obviously the best album they've done so far. And then they either trail off or they continue to sort of carry on. But if that's your debut, then your album should well, I cannot wait to hear the album, basically.
Yes, thanks, Rich. You know, what's great about this band, do a little backstory on the song itself. It's a song that actually was brought in. There's 4 writers in this band. Carl Rather, our bass player, and David Harris, who I mentioned earlier, the other guitar player, Peter, our singer, and myself. And then our drummer, Sean, who kind of takes all the ideas and puts his thing to it. So the creative process in this band is really amazing, as opposed to where Electric Radio Kings, it was just Paul and I wrote all the songs.
Right.
So there's a lot of different, really artistic and, you know, different ideas that come into our songwriting, because you got 4 or 5 different guys with different influences and stuff like that. And they just we all throw everything into the pot, and okay, let's make this work. And it works really well, because you can't buy chemistry or synergy. Absolutely. It's either there or it's not.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the song, Carl brought in like in June. He's like, hey, I've been sitting on this idea. I've had it kicking around for 10 years. And we listened to it, and it was like, wow, this is really cool. So, you know, Pete started writing lyrics, and we started jamming on it, and we would, you know, send emails and files back and forth. Hey, I got this idea for here. And that was cool too, because we weren't all together, because, you know, Peter lives in San Diego, California, and Carl lives in Los Angeles, and Dave lives kind of in Vegas, but he's also in Ohio.
Right.
So we would just send, you know, files back and forth, and everybody's kind of got Pro Tools and stuff set up. So we would just share all these files back and forth and throw our ideas around. And so then we brought it into Mike when we started doing pre-production, and we were like, okay, I think this is one of the 3 or 4 songs we're going to start recording. So I remember going into the studio where we kind of tracked it at is a place called The Hideout, which is an amazing recording studio here in Las Vegas, owned by Kevin Churko. And Kevin is like just a phenomenal, huge, successful producer. He's done Five Finger Death Punch, Papa Roach, Ozzy Osbourne, Shania Twain, and he's another Canadian. Flag. But you just go into the studio, Rich, and it's like an $11 million complex, and it's like you feel successful when you walk in.
Yes.
And so Mike has his studio there. So Mike was like, because the song was originally in a different key. It was in G sharp. And Mike was like, how do you guys feel about changing the key? So we were like, how about let's do it in drop D? I think it was kind of, we all spurted that out. So once it started from there, and then we kind of had to transpose everything and figure it out. And then he just really went to town with the production. And all of a sudden we just saw this thing was like changing and taking life. And like, it's kind of really neat because Mike wrote the vocal line on the piano. And very, very different melodically. So Pete had to kind of relearn how to sing the song. And it was really incredible to see this thing really change and take life. And all of a sudden Mike was like, you know, as we were doing, he goes, I want you to try something. He goes, we're going to do this song in 5/4, 5/4, 5/3. We're like, what does that mean? So it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. So that was, we were like, you know, trying to figure it out. It was kind of funny. I wish we'd have been being filmed, because it just didn't make sense to us, because we'd been playing this kind of more of a punk rock kind of thing 4/4 in a different key. So the process of recording this and really, you know, Mike going to town, and it was a really amazing journey. So when the final product came to be, we were just like, whoa, wow, this is awesome. This is really good. So I'm very proud of everybody. Just did such an amazing job on it.
It is fantastic. Obviously, with as we were saying before, you know, with the restrictions that were in place last year, not to mention the fact that nowadays, like you said, passing files back and forth as you lot are scattered around the country. It seems a lot easier to produce music from home these days, and obviously, like I said before, we had an abundance of independent labels or independent artists releasing music last year throughout. So obviously, do you think there's going to be a surge of independent artists that could finally be acknowledged for what they bring to the music industry?
I think so. You know, it always comes down to, Rich, I mean, how good is the music? You know, it really always comes down to how good is the single, no matter what genre it is, whether it's country or hip hop or rock or metal. It's like, you know, it always comes down to like, is it good? You know?
Yeah.
I think so. And I think, you know, whether you're an indie artist or an established artist, if you write really good music, you're going to be acknowledged. You know, so that's kind of really my take on it.
Yeah.
So to speak. But, you know, there was a lot of restrictions because the recording studio closed for a couple months. So we kind of just had to just wait and just keep doing what we were doing, sharing files back and forth. And then once it did reopen, you know, it was only a couple of us going in at a time, you know, with mics. So it was very dispersed, but at the same time, you know, there's been such a leap in recording technology that, you know, it's okay if that happens. It's not like you all have to be there. So
everything melded together in the end. So that's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the thing I was thinking was that, no, I was thinking of something, then I suddenly forgot because I started reading my next question. No, we're going to move on because I've completely lost what I was thinking about there.
Yes, okay. It'll come back to you.
It will do, hopefully, yeah. Obviously, one of the things I found out recently was that actually guitar wasn't the first instrument you played, was it?
No, I actually started on piano at the young age of 9.
Yep.
And my family was, there was a long line of piano players in my family. So my sister had already been playing for several years. So, you know, they were like, okay, you're next. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to take piano. You know, I want to, you know, play with my friends, you know, and, you know, so started lessons every week. And, you know, and then after I think a year, I started doing the recitals. But I had a great piano teacher, and I started getting really good at it. So after 2 years of heavy piano training, my parents bought me this little tiny acoustic guitar when I was 11, and I just clearly remember vividly, you know, picking that thing up, and I, you know, it was like Pete Townsend, and it was like on the open string, wang, and the thing never left my body, you know, and so I started taking guitar lessons, and I was very blessed because, you know, I went to this place to do lessons that was a music store.
Yeah.
And full of guitars and amps, and I just remember walking in there, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, it changed my life. And one of this teacher, remember this guy, this teacher, John, he had long, curly, blonde hair, and he was just ripping on this like Fender Strat. And I was like, that's what I want to do. Absolutely. That's what I'm going to do. You know, that life-changing moment right there. So very blessed to have had that opportunity. And so within the first year of guitar, you know, I was being taught songs and chords and all of that stuff. But, you know, Rich, I picked up it really quickly because of all the heavy duty piano training.
Yeah. Musically trained prior to that, you can transfer the skills of knowing where the notes are from one to the next. So
yeah, my ear was so developed at that young age. So by the time I was 13, 14, I had gotten really good quickly. So by the time I was 15, I was obsessed. And, then, my parents were like, oh God, what have we done?
I started guitar at 11. I was bullied relentlessly. I then gave it up. It's one of my biggest regrets, unfortunately. However, the daft thing.
Never too late.
No, well, you say never too late. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia 11 years ago. If you're aware of what that condition is, I can't actually play the guitar now because it just kills my hands to hit the notes. It's far too painful, which it frustrates me in that sense, because obviously in this last year, if I'd wanted to sit down and try and learn the guitar, I'd had all the time in the world, but
yes, of course, yes,
absolutely unable to do so. So I kind of sit and think to myself how humble I am to having not learned it, because then it would be something I wouldn't be able to do, if that makes sense.
Right.
No,
that's an interesting way to take it. Yeah,
exactly. It does, in a way. I think that seems to be the topic we're on about this evening, about what we're thinking of the broader aspect of things when things have gone bad, So like yourself and many other artists last year, especially the independent side, have actually come out with fantastic music, despite the fact that they have been able to get out and record, but they've had that time to not only write, but put everything together and like release it once it's like that perfect thing. And like I say, Breathe is one of those tracks that I've just obviously completely state exactly what I said again. For a debut, you can tell it's polished for a start, and it's had a lot of work put on, but it's also you can feel the love that's gone into that track.
Yeah, and what's cool too, Rich, is from a lyrical standpoint, it is about last year and all the fucked up things about last year. So it's a song of hope. It's a song about tolerance and the vision of like, hey, let's unify here as a human race, and stop being so politically divided and racially divided. So that's another cool aspect of the song too, is a very positive message lyrically, and with the music, it just all comes together. So
the nice thing about it, though, to be honest, it is very deep in its meaning, but it isn't completely forced down your throat as if to be bubblegum style, listen to this message. It's like you listen, you think, wow. Not one of those, oh, it's one of them kind of songs. It's not. It's a fantastic record. And do we know I mean, how is it doing over there at the moment? Because obviously
we've gotten added to a lot of Spotify playlists, and just in the month it's been released, we've got over 14,000 views on YouTube. So we've done some press. We're going to go do another round of press on the song, obviously. But at the same time, we want to put more music out to keep that ball rolling, because it's not just like, well, here you go, eat this for the rest of the next 3 months. Like I said, we've got another 2 songs that are finished and in the can, so to speak. So we'll probably do another 3rd release come June, July. Excellent. And then we've talked about maybe putting an EP out and shopping that to some labels.
Good.
And then see what happens with that to make a full length record, because that's what we like to do. But we want to climb up this mountain kind of that's in front of us, and just really, really build the band, because we're excited because the music is so good, and we're all super feeling this. It's kind of envisioning the future. It's really exciting because the band is so good, and we have such a great synergy that we're looking forward to what's going to come. But I think as far as the pandemic, you know, I think we're getting a little
we can
closer.
ignore that. Well, hopefully that'll blow over at some point, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll just be left with the music at the end, which is fantastic. That's all we need. Let the music play, they say. Yeah,
they do, and a lot of you know, great established artists, you know, are releasing great new music too. We just got played at a station in Tucson, Arizona, and they were playing. They played the new Pretty Reckless and new Chevelle, and really good, man.
Oh, so, Pretty Reckless released their album in February, didn't they?
I think so. Yeah. So I think that last year, if you take the positive out of that complete shit show, you know, artists really got affected by it, but at the same time, I think it gave the time to really artists to sit down and go, wow, let's like analyze every little nook and cranny, what we're creating. And that's, I think, why there's so many new great releases coming out, even from.
I think the flip side of it, really, you could think about it this way, is that not being able to get out and do the hard slog of the tours and the constant promotion, maybe that passion for the music actually came back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a documented fact that, like, you know, bands do enjoy touring, but then at the same time they talk about, oh, it was a grueling X amount of months, and you know, it was just nice to get back and chill, and then, you know, then they back on the horse again to do it because you love the music, and that's what it's all about.
Yes.
Today.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, it's like all the stuff that goes into it. It's like, you know, it's you know, that instrument or your love for playing that.
I think I've lost you.
You know, and like
sorry, mate.
Am I back?
You are back now. Yeah, go on.
Okay. Just to get in you know, room and rehearse just this past weekend was just amazing. And that kind of just, it almost like it's a rebirth for musicians. I don't know how everybody else, for me, it's kind of like you're plucked out of this thing you've been doing for years. And it's like, you know, it makes you not take everything that you've done or you're doing for granted.
Absolutely.
So just to go in and rehearse and write new music and work on new things, it was like, man, I felt like a teenager again. It was amazing, you know? So I kind of take that from this whole thing over the last 12 months. It's like, it's really made me appreciate, you know, the gift of music, and blessed I am of what's going on with the band now. And just looking back and, you know, on my career and going, wow, man, you know, sometimes you forget about that. You forget about those things you've taken for granted or have forgotten about that you've done over the last 20 plus years or so. So really time to reflect. So yeah, I take all those positive things.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because, you know, we were all in that position. So, you know, it wasn't just like, you know, and I mean, sure, everybody's frustrated and seeing all the devastating things of the pandemic. So, but we're not alone. It's everybody's going through, whether you're a business owner or an athlete or a musician God, the medical people, I mean, what they've been through last year, just crazy. So
it is. It's still it's good to reflect on the positives out of something like that. If you know, I've been doing this radio gig for the last year. On my previous show, I've gone back through the last 70 years of rock and picked out all sorts of things. So the amount of music that I'm aware that I've missed in the past is phenomenal, and it's just to come to it now to do this new show that I'm doing, which is going to be the emerging artists coming out for the alternative rock and things like that. I was concerned at first, thinking maybe there wouldn't be much to grab hold of, but
there's lots, yeah.
Oh, there's lots. It's going to be hard to push people away to say I haven't got enough time this week. So
yeah.
But yeah, that's fantastic. Speaking of which, you touched originally on the fact that when you said your the way your music was developing because you were changing keys and things like that. That's like a small thing that happens. But obviously you've been playing since an early age. You've been in 2-3 separate bands.
Yeah.
Have you noticed how the music has shifted throughout the years, and how rock in itself, the genre, has changed and evolved?
It's kind of interesting because, rock is like a roller coaster. It goes up and it goes down and it stays down for a while and it starts coming back up and then it kind of mainlines. And then, rock's always kind of been underground. Will always be an underground kind of thing. I think it was exciting, especially like in the last couple of years. It's like you saw a lot of new bands, which I discovered from doing, a big, huge national radio campaign that we did with Electric Radio Kings. It's like seeing all these new bands that you were charting with. I'm like, oh, let me check them out. And like, that was cool to kind of see like a band like Bad Flower, who I'd never heard of. I'm like, wow, these guys are great.
Yeah.
But then it's like, there was a lot of good records put out from established artists too. That year, 2018, like the new Godsmack record, that song Bulletproof, fantastic song. Of course, Rival Sons, love that band. There's a kind of resurgence of organic kind of rock, but it's like yin and yang, because then a lot of new rock is metal.
Yeah.
But then you have the other spectrum of it, which is like Rival Sons or Greta Van Fleet or Dirty Hunter, which is more of a very organic 70s Zeppelin-esque.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they ventured from just metal, sort of evolved into the new metal era in the early 2000s, and then sort of backed up a bit. There's all the arguments about new metal's not rock. It's like, well, technically it is. No, it's not. And it's like, well, potato, as they say. But it's definitely mellowed, and I think that's the thing about not only established artists, but the newer ones, that there's more of a refined way of bringing music to the forefront these days. They do a lot more work on things. They don't just jump into a garage and start playing, which, funnily enough, some of the greatest things from the 60s and the 70s came from garages,
No, totally. So I think it's more of a melting pot now, as opposed to, if you think like early 2000s, it was a lot of like, the Strokes, the Vines, the bands, which had a definite kind of like almost like 60s fuzz type rock meets punk, with a modern twist. So it's funny to see how rock does change per decade. Now it's just like, I kind of think anything, anything goes. Be it that if it's 70s, but there's more of a thing. It's kind of, there's your left side and your right side. And the right side, you got kind of like more heavier type rock, which is I would consider like metal.
Yeah. But
then you have more straight ahead rock, like, like Bad Flower or Rival Sons or Greta Van Fleet.
But then they switch as well, which is amazing, because I've always thought that two that spring to mind was the Nightmare album by Avenged Sevenfold. Obviously they bring out Nightmare, and then they bring out So Far Away, two very opposing tracks, both phenomenal. But it's that broadness of a band that you've considered to be hard, it's kind of like a hardcore aspect of rock, suddenly bringing out something that feels more like a softer ballad, but still hard hitting. It's great.
Yeah. And again, it comes down to the songwriting. I think I leaned more towards the bands like Rival Sons and the Struts. I love the Struts. I actually got to see them in Anaheim, California, right before the pandemic hit, and that was my first time seeing them live, and my jaw was on the floor. I'm like, what a band, man, and just a great catalog of songs too. I love them. I think they're just killing it, and to see a crowd of 2,000 people from the ages of 15 to 60,
which is
all
incredible, yeah.
in unison, just kind of all doing this. It was incredible, man, incredible.
Any kind of music that can transcend the ages, I think, is phenomenal in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was like there was a moment where Luke sat down and played a piano. He's Freddie Mercury, like he encompasses and it embodies that thing. He's just playing piano, singing, and the whole venue is just singing every word. It was just like I was just blown away. I'm like, wow. But the cool thing about Crashing Wayward is like I don't think we really sound like anybody else really that's out right now.
No, that's actually true. I tend to, it could be a bad thing, but I tend to, when I hear a track, I think to myself, oh, that reminds me of, and then I'll think about like other bands, and I sat there and I thought, who do these remind me of? And I thought, no one. And I went back through a lot of your back catalogue on Spotify this morning, thinking to myself, I wonder if I can see if I can locate anything from one of these to see if I can put it into Crashing Wayward. And I thought, I can't. He's switched. He's definitely changed. So that's what brought me to the question about obviously the progression of music in itself, and things like that. So yeah, no, I don't believe you sound like anybody. You could be unique.
Well, and then that's where the influences come in. Is like if you listen to Breathe, you can kind of hear, there's a little bit of U2 influence in that. There's some David Bowie. There's a definite Stone Temple Pilots. And a little, Pete almost has a little bit of Chris Cornell type vibe sometimes.
Yeah, you actually got a point. That did spring to mind a bit on that.
But then it's like it's got the straight ahead heaviness of, say, like a Guns N' Roses. So there's all these different cool elements about this band, and obviously it's very different than stuff I've done in my past. But musically, I think what's cool is with this band is everybody kind of throws their influences in, whether it be Queen or Duran Duran or David Bowie, or Aerosmith or Guns N' Roses or Stone Temple Pilots. So this kind of style, this is kind of what I was doing before I joined LA Guns in 2003. So it's kind of how I've come kind of full circle a little bit. But like I said, what's great is that we've got, a lot of different writers in this band, and I think it shows in the music, and the next single is very different from Breathe. It's kind of more of a Rival Sons type track, kind of four on the floor, very groove laden, but very different and modern sounding. So I'm excited about that. It's like sharing this new kind of vibe and trip.
So it's like taking it back to basics, but still bringing it into the 21st century style.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's what's cool about rock now, coming full circle from your question is like, you've got, such a melting pot of artists, but I think it would be great to see, rock come back, stronger than it has, say, in the last 10 years, because it's really hard to it's just when kids are force-fed hip hop and pop music.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's so disposable.
I think that's where I was basically pointing to originally. The fact that when you consider the mainstream, the mainstream doesn't necessarily contain a lot of the rock element. Obviously, it's picked up a lot of the folk rocks in the latter parts of the 2010s. You've got your indie rocks that are coming through now, but anything remotely like your track would sort of, it would sort of float into the top 40 and then sort of vanish, and people would be like, oh, I remember that track. And it does frustrate me at times, because you just want you want to share it and just say, listen to this song, it's incredible. And they're like, oh, that's really good. And they're like, well, why haven't I heard it in the charts? It's like, why do you have to?
Yeah.
But that's the thing. That's after a year of, because obviously what I was doing, as daft as this sounds, the last year, going from the 1950 up to 2020 in rock, it was mainly from the mainstream perspective. But obviously I was listening to a lot of new bands through the fact that we work within Indie Rocks, which is an independent artist. So a lot of the new music that came through is absolutely brilliant. And people were like, oh, I love that track. And then the next question is, why haven't I heard it on the radio? It's like, well, because they don't have people with pots of money. They're making this from their house.
Yeah, it's such an organic thing, and it's that's why it's like it's so important for people just to share music or educate people on, it's amazing. It's like, I wish they had a course in school. It's like music history, because it's like these young people, they just don't even know. They don't even know about, like, the Foo Fighters and stuff like that, or kids who are 14, 15, they don't have a clue. And that's a disgrace. Because if you think over the last 40 years, how many important and huge artists there were that we've lost too. David Bowie, Prince, Michael Jackson, Freddie Mercury. I mean, Glenn Frey from the Eagles, Scott Weiland, Chris Cornell. It's like it sucks, and we've lost Eddie Van Halen. That was a tough one. That was brutal. 15 seconds on the Grammys, they could give this guy a 15-second nod. It's like it's a disgrace, But it's unfortunately, we've lost a lot of icons, and I don't see. That's the problem too, is I don't see any real new icons.
No, there doesn't appear to be anything with longevity at present. I mean, obviously Dave, with respect to Dave Grohl, I think he's going to keep going. That's a guy that loves to record,
we've got a lot of great musicians and stuff like that, but I think it's just, I don't know. That's a really tough question to address and talk about. It's like, are there any new icons? Some people say, hell yeah, there is, but, I don't know. Where's our next Steven Tyler? Where's our next Kurt Cobain? Where's our next David Bowie? Where's our next,
Yeah, it'd be hard pressed to get the next David Bowie. I really think, that's going to be tough to top.
Yeah.
In the same way we say with Freddie Mercury, it's you're going to get another one like that. I mean, I see you've got Bowie on your. I'm sorry, I say Bowie, either or. You've got it on your T-shirt. You've got Hendrix on your wall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, obviously, probably a cliched question to ask a rock star, so to speak. So, what was your biggest influence when you first started out?
There's a lot of different things, and I'm lucky to have grown up in a generation where all my friends had older brothers and sisters that had great records and listened to great music. So I think it was probably being around the age of 10 or 11 is really when you kind of get wise to. When you're 7, 8, or 9, it's like you just I mean,
you just hear a song.
Yeah.
If it's
you hear, Saturday Night by the Bay City Rollers, and you're, little kid, what SAT?
Saturday Night,
that's awesome. That song rocks. You don't know.
The Saturday Night I listened to as a kid was Wigfield, so there's the difference.
Right. Yeah.
Do you have any idea what that is?
No.
Right, well, leave it. Don't worry about it. But it has a dance with it as well.
Yeah. Okay. As long as there's a dance with it. Yeah, I think it was all that great stuff. It was Cheap Trick and you know, REO Speedwagon and you know, Aerosmith and Boston and all that great stuff and Van Halen and Sabbath. So it was a ton of stuff. I was just like, it wasn't just really one artist, and I think that really helped me as a musician playing music at an early age. It was like I was into so many different things. It wasn't just one thing I listened to. You know, I was, you know, into other stuff like the Motels and Duran Duran and early U2. But at the same time, I would, you know, I would also listen to Motley Crue and, you know, Judas Priest. So you had both, best of both worlds. So it was like there wasn't real one artist. You know, there was lots of guitar players that I gravitated towards. But as far as like bands and stuff like that, I just liked so many different things. If the songs spoke to me, I was into the band.
Yeah.
So I think that helped me too as a artist. Was all those different influences, some completely different than others. You know?
I mean, it just goes to show. I mean, your teenage years had some absolutely fantastic bands. The R&B era was kind of big in the mid to late 90s when I was leaving school. So obviously, I think, you know, you moved with the times, didn't you? So I was really into R&B then obviously moved on to rap, and it wasn't until, funnily enough, after having my kids, that I actually went back to realizing just how much more satisfying it is to listen to rock music.
It's cool to discover
timeless, you know,
from, you know, that you grew up to that maybe, you know, like perfect example was like when, you know, the mid 90s music was pretty bleak.
Bassy as well. Bleak and bassy.
Yeah, it was like, you know, the whole grunge thing had come and gone.
Yeah.
And then it got just like really bad. Like it was like, I couldn't even describe what was music then. I mean, it was, so I just kind of went back and started listening to Bowie again and Iggy Pop. And it was like rediscovering all that stuff, you know, from my early teenage years and Sex Pistols and all that. It was like, it just made me love that stuff again. Not that, you know, because as you go through, you know, from certain eras, as you're dictating how old you are at that time, you listen to different stuff, but then, you know, that stuff becomes unpopular and this ushers in a new era of different type bands. So for me, it was kind of always, I'd either go forward or backwards and then forward again, kind of, but always trying to discover new music. And yeah, I love hearing new music. It's good, you know. I love it, you know.
That's the indie rock's slogan, that discover something new.
Yeah.
We see it there.
Like Corey Taylor's new record is fantastic. And my buddy Zach Throne, he plays guitar in Corey's band. And
nice.
Through that, it's like discovering songs off Corey's new album, like really, really good, you know. So it's cool to get turned on to, you know, music just from your bandmates talking about certain artists, like, oh, I gotta go check that out, and you check it out. And what's kind of cool, it's kind of a blessing and a curse, is that everything is so instant. It's like, click away, I can go listen to this. Whereas before, you know, oh, so-and-so's got a new record. Like, what does it sound like? I don't know. I haven't bought it yet.
Yeah, let's go down to the local record store and sit and listen to it for a bit.
Yeah, and I kind of miss that innocence. You know, there was something exciting about that. I mean, obviously you can't stop, you know, time moving forward in technology.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's kind of a thing of the past. Although vinyl seems to have made a massive comeback over the last couple of years.
It has. The funny thing is, I've suddenly started to think to myself, I wonder if it's worth actually investing in a turntable myself. The problem is, though, is that over the years, I invested in DVDs, and then I ended up with an entire wall full of them. Then I got rid of them all. I got rid of them all to replace them with Blu-rays.
Right. Yeah.
So now I've got a bucket full of Blu-rays under my feet.
Yeah.
If I start doing this with vinyl, the wife is going to kill me.
You have to build an extra space addition on the house.
There's literally no room in here for that. But it would be fantastic, because this is the thing. You know, I'm going to be 42 this year, and trying to explain to just my kids that there's something exceptionally different about when you put a record on, and it's that first initial crack noise as it spins around, and then the track plays, and none of that is heard on an MP3.
No, it's really the way music is supposed to be listened to in a sense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. My singer Pete, he's heavy, and he preaches that, and he's heavy into vinyl, and he's got 3 teenage daughters, and they're very well musically educated, but like he spends time with them. He's like, listen to this record, put like the on or something. Listen to the way this sounds. Listen to, Rio by Duran Duran. Like that's really, there's something special about that, and I think that kids need to be educated on that, because they don't know what it's like to go down to a record store and buy that album.
It's the same with movies as well, isn't it? No more blockbuster video of you can spend 30 minutes scrolling through Netflix and every other streaming service, but imagine what it was like back in the 90s when you actually had to leave the house to go and spend 30 minutes searching for a VHS.
Yeah, smelling people's BO throughout the block. Yeah, that was awesome.
Going down, looking at 3 different films and coming back with the same one that you gave back last week.
Right. Yeah. So, like I said, I mean, time doesn't stand still. So, but it's. I think maybe that's what it was the hipsters made buying vinyl popular again, and God bless them. So, that was cool to see that all happening, and I'm like, damn right, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good.
So just very briefly, so we're expecting at least another 2 singles coming from Crashing Wayward within the next 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, I would say definitely 3rd single by early summer, and then if things keep progressing the way they are with the vaccinations and the numbers growing, we are keeping our fingers crossed to go out and start playing in September, maybe late summer.
And then a possible EP after that.
Yeah. So we just keep building the machine, Rich, and we're excited because we love this band, and we're very grateful to have the universe brought the 5 of us together.
Oh yeah. I'm very, very pleased to have actually found you guys, to be honest. A lot of thanks actually goes to a few people on Twitter that basically originally shared the link.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And that, I think that's probably the plus side of social media. Obviously the clicks and things like that can be frustrating at times. But when suddenly someone just pops up on your timeline saying, have you heard this? And you can just click it there and then, and you're like, wow. And it's obviously led to this interview, which is great. So, and obviously today I played a symphonic slam for the wife, which was awesome. She was actually in the kitchen this morning when I was putting that on. She came in. She thought Eric Clapton had done a new album, and I said, no. So
too kind.
I said, this is Stacey. This is his work, and we liked the. It's tough because obviously I know I call it Patcher Bell, but is it A in D minor? I think it's called. I'm unfortunately I'm really bad when it comes to the actual names of the classical songs, but Moonlight Sonata on that album is phenomenal. I know that.
Yeah, that was interesting how that came about. At the time, I think when did Hollywood Forever come out? So it was way before that. 2009, I put that I was doing a lot of session work, and Cleopatra approached me about doing a guitar. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Greensleeves was recorded for a compilation or something.
Yeah.
And I went in with Adam Hamilton to do that, and it really turned out well. And then Cleopatra was like, well, you should do a whole record like this. And I was like,
Canon in D, that was it.
Canon in D, that was it. Yeah. So I was like, wow, that'd be kind of cool to do a guitar instrumental album, but then all classical music. I'm like, that's gonna be a lot of work. So I'm like, I thank God for Adam Hamilton, because he did such an amazing job at arranging that. He played drums on it. He did all the orchestration on it and did a great job producing it. So I spent hours and weeks and weeks and weeks, just like, he basically said, think of it like this: your guitar is the lead singer.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you've absolutely made it sing on that album.
You gotta pretend this is an actual song with a verse and a chorus and all this stuff. Your guitar is that. I mean, there was some tracks where it just sat and ripped away, and
but it works though. That's the thing; it does work. A lot of classical is more about gaps, or it's like a constant, like one note that carries on for about 3 minutes.
Yeah. But there was there's sort of really some good moments on that. So that was back in 2009, so that was a while ago. Yeah.
But it's good. I mean, it's like I say, music being as timeless as it is, you can go back and you can listen to it.
Yeah.
And well,
I think Blue Danube is kind of one of my favorite. I really I'm a huge Neil Schon fan. He was one of my biggest influences, and I kind of really tried to capture like that style on that song. Really came out well. But there's some, like I said, there's some great moments.
There is. So what I'm going to do, in regards to the actual radio show, which just to obviously give you a quick update, the first episode of TiLt will be on, I believe, April 2nd.
Okay, awesome.
And your track will be on there along with this interview, which will going to take a while to condense it, but that's fine. What I'm thinking of probably doing beforehand though is if I were to play one of your early tracks, what would you say is probably one of your favorite tracks you've worked on in the past?
One of the albums I did that really was still a fantastic record is Tales from the Strips that I did with Guns, and late great Andy Johns produced that record, and Andy, very well legendary producer, worked with Zeppelin, Van Halen, Rod Stewart, Eddie Money, guys, so many artists, Steve Miller. So that album was really, really spectacular. The writing, the production, and it's not, dated sounding. So there's a lot of great tracks on that record. That was a really awesome record to make. A lot of good memories on that.
If you were to pick one from that album, which one do you think you'd prefer the best?
Oh wow, that's a tough one. There's a lot of good songs.
It is. I mean, I'm just scrolling through them now because there's the bonus of technology for you. I'm just scrolling through them now. But It Don't Mean Nothing, wasn't that? What's his name? Not Richard Marx. Was it Richard Marx? No, it wasn't.
I think he had a song called that. Yeah.
I believe I played it on Decades Rock History. So yeah.
I think that was his very first single, actually.
It was. It actually.
And one of the guys from the Eagles, and maybe Don Felder played on that song. Surprised I know that. That's a great track. Probably Gypsy Soul. Gosh, there's so many cool songs. Hollywood's Burning, that's another cool song too. It's a really
go on.
if you play this, one of my favorite songs is Skin. That song's really dope from that record.
Which one?
Skin.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So right, so that's one to put on before the.
That's my choice. That's my choice, Rich.
Fantastic. That's great. Right. So we did say half an hour. It's been over an hour. That's fantastic.
Okay. Time flies when you're having fun.
A lot of the actual questions that I was actually going to ask in my very nice set way also melded into one, so it actually worked quite perfectly actually, because I think I've got everything done. It's been a fabulous chat, and
yes, great to chat with you, Rich.
Thank you very much for being
TiLt.
Yeah, thank you very much for being my debut interview for my debut show.
Awesome. You're well with the show and more guests and success, and would love to come over to the UK, do a whole tour of the entire UK.
That would be awesome. I would have to get a ticket. I think the last time I saw somebody live was 1998.
Oh, geez, you're overdue.
I'm terribly overdue, unfortunately.
Oh, majorly overdue.
No, I got more into films. I spent more time doing cinema trips and other things. But I think music is definitely something I enjoy more. Definitely doing radio and presenting. I think I found a niche. You spoke about full circle. I back in the late 90s, I started DJing, but then had to sell my equipment to pay rent. So I've sort of come back round now. So it's great. So
all part of life's journey. Yes, exactly. So how are your how's cases over in UK? Is it getting any better? I know that was the
I'll be honest, in the last week, I have not put the news on.
Yeah.
It's gotten to a point where
down from it. Yeah.
It's non-stop. You put the news on, and even if we're not talking about it, they've got a ticker in the top left-hand corner on how many people have been vaccinated, and then straight on it goes into an advert, and all of a sudden you've got, and here are the new cases, and you're like, so, the kids are back in school. However long that lasts is another thing, and it's frustrating because it's without putting a downer on the entire interview, just to say what the last year has been like. It kind of feels like you look back on things as so simple, such as just going out.
Yeah.
And it's like you took it for granted, like, I'll go out tomorrow, but no, you won't now. So
no. I think it's like sometimes it's like you got to look at a bigger picture. It's like I don't wonder if we're being just reset.
Yeah. That seems to be the major thing, the major talking point lately.
Yeah.
The great global reset, as they call it.
Yes, right.
What I was going to do before we go, you could either, it's entirely up to you, because obviously I don't want to take up any more of your time than I already have. You could either do a introduction to your new single now, or if you prefer a better sound bite, maybe record that and email that over. It's entirely up to you.
Let's try this one, and then if it's not, I'll do like a little MP3 voice recording.
Cool. Yeah, go on. So your name, the name of the single, and it's out now. Something like that. Anything's fine.
Sure. Hey, this is Stacey David Blades with Crashing Wayward, and this is our debut single called Breathe, and you're listening to the awesome TiLt Radio.
Thank you. Excellent.
Yeah.
Incidentally, TiLt is an acronym. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, it stands for something.
Right.
See if you can have a guess. Go on.
It's almost like a verb, isn't it? You could take it in a certain context too. Pushing forward, tilt, like, I don't know.
No, I'll tell you, it's today I listened to. So
nice play on words there.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm gonna hopefully try and hashtag that, so that gets about today I listened to.
Today I listened to. That's great. I like it.
That's what I do. Right.
We're always listening one way or another, Rich.
Excellent. Well,
Sometimes
2021 is looking to be lit.
Yes, lit tilt.
Lit tilt.
Yeah, tilt. Yeah, once you get everything up and definitely share it on all the platforms too, Rich. So which will get some more listeners your way.
And I look forward to your next few singles.
Yes, me too.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm actually literally on the edge of my seat here.
Cool. I think you'll like it.
And I'll if it's okay with you, I'll message you when this episode is due to go live.
Yes.
If you
let me know when this is up, and I'll definitely post it on website and Instagram and all that stuff.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Because I can't actually go live here. The house is I've got 2 dogs and 4 kids, so everything's got to be pre-recorded. But
yes, exactly.
It's fun.
Right.
The editing process is lengthy, as you know. So
yes. Oh yeah, I know.
But anyway, thank you very much for today.
Yeah, thank you, Rich. Good to meet you, and we'll chat soon.
Excellent.
Yeah. You have a great week.
You too, mate. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks, Rich. Chat soon, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.